Okay, everybody. This is Michael, or I hope I'm pronouncing that word right, or that name right. It's either Michael or Michelle Barden. He is a fellow targeted individual as well as the female right beside him. Now, there was something I had a feeling about something when it came to the riots and stuff that was going on, and considering like the amount of things happening, right? I knew I knew something was off, and that there's no way like that this is it, that what they're doing that is the prime thing for them, to be pushing for. There was something else going on behind the scenes, and I'm like, wait a minute, it was something like it was something a bit off, and I'm like, wait a minute. Whenever they do something major, right, and it's all over the news, they always are doing something behind the scenes. I've said this in my previous videos. Whenever something major is actually happening, they're always got something happening behind the scenes. Go ahead, if you hadn't already, go ahead and like and subscribe to Michael Barden's channel. He definitely gives really good content. Without further ado, I'm gonna play the video, only part of it though. I'm gonna leave a link in the description where you can just watch the rest if you want. But as you can see, the entire video is like around an hour or so, and I do not have that much film time to really get that much. And it's only just a portion for you just to be able to see what the conversation goes into, because they're going to basically break everything down on the who and what is actually tied into all of this stuff, and why they've actually had, there are certain people doing theatrics within these protest groups. And if you're not aware, TIs, these people who are within these groups, and I said it before, I've been knew these gang stalkers were basically gonna be infiltrating these groups. I said it before, and I knew this was gonna happen. I just didn't realize who was backing it, but I believe now we got a lead.
Cameo experience or cameo appearance here by Willis. When they updated the watch listing guidance, a lot changed, and Philip Haney actually had gone on a bunch of different talk shows. Philip Haney was a Department of Homeland Security officer that came out and blew the whistle and said that, is this going to get me kicked off of YouTube by saying this? Who cares? We don't need any help, buddy.
Go upstairs or
We don't need any help. There's people outside making noise. Whenever I start making a video, people outside start making noise and Willis starts barking. Never fails. I've got proof. Go back and look at all my old videos. So anyway, Philip Haney, Department of Homeland Security officer, came out and blew the whistle and said that he noticed in his research that there were there were actual terrorists of a certain religion, certain affiliation, that were basically scrubbed off of these watch lists and left alone to do whatever they want. Well, meanwhile, good American citizens were put onto watch lists, domestic terrorist type watch lists with the Department of Homeland Security. And I believe that's exactly what happened when Obama was in office. They got rid of all of those actual terrorists off of these watch lists and put a bunch of patriot type, nationalist, constitution loving, freedom loving Americans on these watch lists, because they were uncovering a lot of corporate
people who might have too much information.
People that know too much. Yeah, people that would be a threat to the deep state, cabal, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, the controlling power, globalist type power. And so journalists got targeted, whistleblowers got targeted, people that were just that had a big social media following, that were putting out information, say about like Obama's birth certificate, or not truth about 9/11, people talking about chemtrails, a lot of the different touchy subjects that they didn't want people talking about, that are all part of this mass control structure that we're all uncovering right now. And I'm one of those people, for sure. I believe that I was targeted through the FISA court and that I was put on this Department of Homeland Security watch list, which is, I have a flyer right here that Karen Milton Stewart, she's a 28-year NSA intelligence analyst and whistleblower, and she's a friend of mine. She's written me a personal affidavit for court, signed sworn affidavit for court. She's been a huge advocate for targeted individuals, all people that have been put on these watch lists that are actually good people. And let's see, am I going off on a tangent here? Anyway, on these watch lists, you know what? I'm going to stop right there and not go too far into that. Check my Twitter. You can check out the tweet that I did, and check out the dismantled DHS, Department of Homeland Security, which I don't, now that I've really looked into this and really thought about it, I don't know if they need to really dismantle it, but maybe fix it and have the right people on watch lists.
Hopefully they're already working on that.
Hopefully they're already working on that. I've seen some things in my life. I've experienced some things that it's the targeting, the things that I have experienced in the targeting that I've gone through have really ramped down, and the tone has changed a little bit as far as the way people treat me. I still go through street theater. If you're new to this and you don't know what street theater is, if you look up targeted individuals, you want to research street theater, gang stalking, auto mobbing, color sensitization. There's a bunch of things. It's a whole another thing. But so a lot of that started happening to good American citizens when this watch listing guidance was updated. And a lot of those people that got put on that watch list go through a psychological torture, basically, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they cannot get any help from police, from the court, from an attorney. You come up on all databases as a terrorist. And one of the things that I'd like to point out is when I say you can't get any help from police, I'm not anti-police. I am pro-peace officer. I've worked with police officers. I have no ill will towards police officers. I have ill will towards the people that have disseminated this information and took good people and put them on these watch lists. Because, like I've said before, if I was still in the military, which I served 15 years in the military, 5 years active duty as a crash fire rescue firefighter, and 10 years as a multimedia photo, video, and broadcast journalist. If I had no idea about any of this, I was still in the military, and they came to me and they said, we need you to be on this team where you help stop terrorism. I'd be like, sign me up. I'm in 100%. And I would probably take part in whatever program that they wanted me to, because these programs are compartmentalized. They ask each little group to do a certain little thing, and they don't know the top of the pyramid, basically, what the ultimate goal is and what a targeted individual actually goes through. So what I've learned is that they take good people, patriotic people, not all of them. Some of the people that are involved in this are terrible people, psychopaths, sociopaths. They get off on this. They thrive on what's called.
Sometimes they get out of prison and it's like
they get out of prison and they say exactly, if part of your parole conditions are you need to do this certain thing if people are on public assistance.
Prove to us that you're
exactly
doing the right thing and
you want to help us. And that's they're basically forced into doing that. Otherwise, they get targeted themselves. We think
and
it's
they have to
a
kind
theory.
of almost sign their life away and say that they would never. It's a confidentiality agreement.
Exactly. Thank you.
And
what's that called? A non-disclosure, right? Yeah. They have to sign a non-disclosure. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things. Thank you for reminding me. One of the things that we think that they do is sign a non-disclosure, meaning that they can't say a word about any of it, and
their payments.
There's payments, and a lot of the payments we think go through gift cards and other gifts that aren't really traceable, something you can't track. And there's also something called a national security letter, an NSL, and you can research that. and people that are in different businesses, say a police department, a fire department, a doctor's office, a dentist's office, anybody that would accept to be in one of these programs gets a national security letter, meaning that anything that they're asked to do for national security, they can't say a word about it, and if they do, they are breach of contract, and they're divulging classified information.
And they'd have to return.
And they would have to
any
return
payments.
any payments that have been given to them, which they probably already spent all that money, and they would be in debt up to their eyeballs, like a bunch of us. But so they hold them captive basically by having them sign this national security letter and what was the other one called? No.
Sorry, I was reading this and I didn't hear the last little bit.
National security letter and no. We can't talk about it. What's that one? I just said it a minute ago. Non-disclosure. Yes.
Confidentiality.
Yeah, non-disclosure.
Yeah.
So they'd lose all the money that they have made, and they would probably get thrown in prison for 10 years for divulging national security. So even if somebody starts this program, they don't know really what they're getting into, and they start realizing, hey, this is pretty effed up, what we're doing to people. We've realized now that people are committing suicide, they're going into prison, they're going into mental facilities, they're getting put on psychotropic and SSRI drugs, all these different things, and they're not really crazy. We're doing this to them. They can't say anything or else they go to prison. So, okay, so that's kind of covers the targeted individual foundation and where that, it's been going on longer than 2012, but it really ramped up in 2012, 2013 when this watch listing guidance updated. So now there's a reason why I talked about that, because there's a segue to the rest of this, what's going on right now. So the people that take part in this are all kind of in the same family as the people that are getting paid to loot and riot right now. So there are gang stalkers, we call them, which are basically like live action role players.
Like Antifa.
Like Antifa, exactly. And I've got a pretty interesting story about how Antifa sent me a signal. Actually, I'll just talk.
Oh, here in the house?
Yeah, here in the house. So when you're a targeted individual, you have home break-ins, just like the Stasi police did in the 90s. If you research Stasi police and you research something called Zersetzung, it means erosion. They attack every aspect of your life, and one of the things they do is a psychological operation where they will break into your house. The whole thing's a psyop, but they'll break into your house while you're gone. They get in somehow, and they will move different items around in your house, or they'll do certain things that you will notice that other people won't notice. One of the videos that I made about Antifa on November 4th, a few years ago, actually more than 3 years ago now, November 4th, 3 years ago, they were talking about going into neighborhoods, burning homes, looting homes, and I made a video about that, and I talked about how I had gone down and bought an AR because I wasn't going to let people come into my neighborhood and attack my neighbors. Even though I don't like some of my neighbors, they're still my neighbors, and I wasn't going to let some angry mob come into my neighborhood and destroy my neighborhood. I care about my neighbors whether they're assholes or not. That's just how I am. So after I made that video talking about that, I had a home break-in, and Antifa uses this red flag. They have two red flags on their little symbol. Look up Antifa, and it will show their little icon that they use. Right after that happened, a bunch of stuff happened where my computer got hacked, my printer was going haywire, all kinds of stuff, and they were letting me know that they were doing this stuff. I came back into my house, and I had a pole in my shipping room in here where I'd ship all my eBay stuff. And I think I can't remember what it was for, like a jack stand for my jack or something like that. But I have in my pantry, where the washer and dryer are, I have these little red shop towels. You buy a pack of shop towels at the automotive store, and I keep them all in there. And I got home, and that little red towel was draped over the top of that jack stand, just like a little Antifa flag. And I am 100% positive that I didn't go in there and pick up a shop towel and bring it in and set it on top of the jack stand thing. So that's one of those little psyop things that they do to, if you go explain that to the police, somebody broke in my house and put a towel on top of my jack stand.
I was just about to say something about that. A lot of people will go, oh, yeah, right, people are breaking into your,
who would do that? Who would take
just
the time
in the
to
short
do
amount
that?
of time that we've been talking about this stuff and you've been filling me in about these things that happen, that go on with you personally and me, I'm researching everything that I hear about, and I've started seeing other things that other people that talk about these break-ins and how are they doing this without anybody, these targeted individuals that their houses get broken into. And
But there's no sign of
there's-
breaking and entry. There's no...
exactly, and even you have cameras, and I'm like, well, what's on the cameras? Well, conveniently enough,
When I get home
That-
and I check the surveillance cameras, there'll be 5 or 10 minutes where it's just blank.
yeah, but how are you going to go to a cop and say, somebody broke in, but
there's no
these
sign.
minutes of they're going to go, mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're delusional. You're a crazy guy, right? No, this is not the first time this
It's
has happened
easier
in
for
history.
them than it
Yeah.
seems.
Well, and plus, if we go to them and they look up our name as a targeted individual, it comes up as non-investigative subject code 4, I believe it says. And we've got this through people just talking, divulging some information, stuff like that. But targeted individuals come up on police databases as non-investigative subject. I don't know why they chose that name, but it does. So they're told by these intel groups, the higher up, these federal programs that were either a terrorist, a pedophile, bank robber, some kind of spy, something ridiculous to where...
Does it say
I don't know.
it specifically,
I don't know
or
if it says
it just
specifically.
must say something to where kind of a generalization of something.
I don't know
you're something.
exactly what it says, but I know there's information on there that says something bad about it. It's part of the slander campaign, and it'll say something ridiculous about the targeted individual. Not to say that there aren't people on some of these watch lists that might actually fit some of those categories. So everybody's smushed into the same group, basically, but they will take, like my friend Karen Melton Stewart that worked for the NSA for 28 years. They put her on this list. Kevin Shipp, former CIA agent, whistleblower, talked about the deep state and the shadow government. He hasn't come out and said he's a targeted individual, but a lot of the things that he explains are exactly what happens to targeted individuals. His house was broken into. They tried to poison him. They set him up in court. He has cars following him. He's never come out and said, I have cars following him or following me, but he has said, if I ever need to stop for directions, I can just get out and ask the guy behind me where I'm going. He says stuff like that. So, anyway, back to George Soros. George Soros gave Obama $1 million, gave the Obama administration $1 million right before this watch list and guidance started, and then more and more reports of people being gang stalked and active shootings started. So I started talking about the live action role players, the gang stalkers, the false flag actors that are involved in this, and a lot of them get paid through, didn't we see an Antifa card today with the little chip on it?
Yeah, I posted it on my Twitter feed.
Tell them what your Twitter account is so they can check it out.
Andrea_homegirl. I'm a real estate agent, and I started this account several years ago for real estate, and I just never used it. So I
Hence
picked it.
the home girl.
Homegirl,
She's
yeah.
not a home girl. She's a home girl.
Exactly.
She sells homes.
So
And-
Andrea_homegirl, and I just posted something on my profile. I'm trying to speak up. Is that loud
No,
enough?
you got to spell it so they know it's a...
ANDREA_homegirl. You know how to spell that, I hope. So I got up this morning, and I was up for a while, and I was just flipping through some Twitter posts, and this is kind of how this whole thing started this morning, the discussion of we've got to do a video about this, because I got up and sometimes I'll see somebody's account with a little blue check mark maybe like a Republican senator, or somebody that's posting something favorable to Trump or MAGA or whatnot. And then I read the comments, and I'll see, sometimes I do this just out of curiosity, just to see what people are saying. And so I happened to see a comment. It was just a short little comment replying to this blue checkmark person that I could tell was kind of passive aggressive, just a quick little something. And I'm like, who is this? So I clicked on this person's profile, and it kind of snowballed from there. I looked at this person's tweets and some comments, and that's just kind of how my brain works. I'm like, who is this? What are they talking about? And I started seeing, just from starting with this one person's Twitter feed, I started making all these connections between the people that are commenting on some of his posts and what they're saying. And I'm like, okay, so who is this? And I'd click on their profile, and then I start seeing these, and I can't believe that they're allowed on Twitter, but basically porn videos. Retweet this, let's see if we can get to 200 retweets, or this girl, whoever this porn star looking girl, $1 for everybody who retweets this or something. And I'm going through, and I'm
naked tweeter or something like that.
Something like that. I don't know. I took a bunch of screenshots though. Like each time I'll get to the next person or the next tweet, or and I'll take a screenshot along the way, so that if I get kind of lost in my little search, I can go back and I can see, well, where did I get started with this whole, because it goes, I can spend hours doing that.
On and on.
And I started finding that some of these people that were connected to this first person, maybe not to this person directly, but through that person and the people who are communicating with him through his tweets and comments, that they are connected to these trafficking Twitter sites or profiles. And I start looking at the people who are commenting, thanks, have a beautiful day, and then the girl would, replying back to them. And then I would see that they have other connections in common, and that some of them,
They were all from the same place, right?
well, no, I have to back
Am I
up
jumping
just for a
ahead?
second.
Okay.
The Project Veritas video that has
Yes.
the Bernie guys that say if Bernie doesn't get this nomination,
Do you remember what that guy's name
gonna
is?
Martin something. I have it
Okay,
in.
so the guy from the Bernie Sanders campaign, the campaign manager, right? He had a big beard, and he was.
He's just one of the Antifa guys, basically saying, and he was on a
and he,
didn't know he was being recorded, and he was saying that if Bernie doesn't get this nomination,
cities
Minneapolis-
are going to, or did he say Minneapolis
Minneapolis is
specifically?
going to burn. Yep. And then him and another guy, and they're talking about what's going to happen if, basically what we are seeing going on today. And so when I saw that,
If you haven't
Which-
seen that video of
I'll
on
post
Project
it here.
Veritas, okay, we'll update that. But if you haven't seen that video, you got to see it. The guy with the beard, and he's saying if Bernie loses, I forgot that he said Minneapolis
and
specifically.
they're like, I will
is
go
going to
out and I'm
burn.
going to go get it, and I will, shoot these MFers, and I mean, it's bad. They don't know they're being recorded, and so they're
Yeah.
basically saying all this
So-
stuff that they would probably never say to anybody, obviously. So anyway, but it had this guy's name on there, and so I don't know if it was before I saw that or after this morning, but I searched his name, and I'm assuming that it's him, but I can't say for sure. But I found the person who has the same name. It's a unusual last name, and I found in his Twitter feed some of the comments, people who are commenting on his posts that had the same. I remember what it was. He was saying, him or the other guy, one of them was saying that they've got these groups on Twitter that are like, he's like, we are basically saying that we are coming together. We're organizing. We're getting our people together, and we're on Twitter, and it, almost in a way as though they've got their little group over here and they're doing their thing. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to find this guy. What are they talking about? Well, I find this guy, and a lot of the people that he's communicating with, they all speak German. It's really easy to translate tweets. You can set your settings
Click translate.
to where you're typing English and everything comes up in German. And they're all from, not all, a lot of them, Leipzig,
Germany.
And I started and these are the ones that have a lot of connections to the porn accounts, and also that's where I found the Antifa card. And they're all in German, but you can translate each tweet. And so I would go through and I would translate each tweet. A lot of them are very coded, but they're easy to figure out.
Yeah, they speak in code.
Once you kind of go through and you look at what they're talking about, who are they talking to? Who is this person? They're retweeting this organization, and they're posting this really nice looking debit card. It's the Antifascista, whatever.
Yeah, it's got the little chip on there and everything, and it's like that's how they get paid when they
and one of them was kind of laughing. They were like, "Oh, everybody thinks that we get paid by the state, but that's not all true because we get these cool little cards." And then the people are commenting on it like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like that's a good way to."
Somebody was complaining that they hadn't got their payment yet, right?
Oh, there's a lot of people saying they haven't got their payment, but it wasn't in that same conversation.
Okay.
That was in a different English conversation. But yeah, about that card. Let me see real quick.
Now, there's a reason.
Beautiful card. One more reason to register with the Antifa Association.
Yeah, hold it. See if you can.
Well, this is a screenshot, so you can't really see the actual card, but I can go back and find it.
Okay. So there's a reason why we're talking about these two different things, because they actually link together.
Oh yeah, well that's who's doing all of these audits and stuff.
So we also found, let's see, Barbara Martin on.
Okay, I'm gonna end it right there, everybody. Remember, chances are people who are also being targeted, they may actually have crimes like listed under them. But again, even with that known, you must understand when they put those chemtrails out there, that stuff that's not even it's not just adults breathing that stuff in, it's kids too. It's kids, teenagers, your grandmother, your grandfather, everybody's breathing that stuff in when with them using these weapons and how covert they are, and their tactics of how they would discriminate against you and all that stuff. With all of these tactics going off like that, it's very you can't just say that person is just acting on their own accord with these weapons. If these weapons exist, chances are people are definitely being controlled, as well as their people may just be willing to just do shit like this. But you got to understand, remember what I told you before, peer pressure is a form of brainwashing that they use to socially condition you into their social demographic. When they do that, they want the part of you, they want to construct something of you that fits into their social demographic while discarding your true self. A person who gets converted like that could turn out to be anything. A pervert, any type of criminal, a thief, a murderer, you name it. It could be anything. It doesn't even matter. Like once they do that, and you got to understand, these are the people who are doing that are using these tactics to brainwash people. The news is just as guilty of doing this kind of crap. They're just as guilty. When they take that dirty money, they are literally feeding the misinformation that has led all of us astray for years. And we've had to deal with the fact that our own generation of parents have had to deal with this same shit, but they didn't have the evidence that we have today. And it's the same thing with even their parents as well. It's been a long way coming, and we've had to deal with this for so long, man. But everything's starting to come together. All the evidence is starting to show for what it is. All of this bullshit they've been doing is being exposed. And let me tell you something. I am damn proud of every targeted individual of all the research they have done to expose this corruption for what it is. Remember, this technology is very sinister. It is very, very sinister. It could literally suppress, and I'm telling you because I have definitely experienced this myself. This stuff has a way to basically manipulate you into where you're thinking that you're actually in control, but in reality you're not. They have the ability to literally manipulate your mind when you're not aware of. Especially think about it: a person who's not aware runs the risk of being controlled a heck of a lot more than a person who is aware. You know, but trauma-based mind control is different, and uh, what's that word I'm looking for? I want to say a person who's just willing to be mind controlled is completely different. A person who's more susceptible to the mind control is a person who they can just basically use and just dispose of, you know? And that's the problem, because that's the threat of the next generation is facing if we don't stop this organization from what it's doing. It's just as he says, having this program as far as protection can be a good thing. This technology that's been developed can be used for good. Problem is, it's the people who are in possession of it. That's the problem. The problem is we don't need these damn chemtrails coming out on these skies. We don't need that happening. People need to wake the hell up. People need to tell them to stop and actually, uphold their rights, telling them to stop that shit. People need to do that, you know? But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. I will leave a link, to this specific video to his channel, so you'll be able to check out the rest of the vid as well as the beginning. But I just wanted to play that little part, that part of you of the explanation that they have for you all. And to basically also send support to other TI's channels, because every time I find a major targeted individual's channel, I always do that to basically show my support, to other fellow targeted individuals. Stay safe, stay strong, everybody.